Welcome to FemTV. I'm your host, Farhana Kassem. I'm very happy to announce to all of you today that I am joined by Deirdre Cameron, founder of Fascinating Lives. We're so happy to have you here. I understand that Fascinating Lives is a business that's very, very close to your heart and touches on ways to help people, companies, businesses become more mindful. Can you tell us a little bit more about your business and your business model?
One day, life events sort of took over, and before I knew it, I had a business going. So the reason why I called my business Fascinating Lives is because I met an amazing gentleman who ironically just passed away 2 weeks ago. And I'm even more honored to be able to talk about him in my story, because he really is a lot of why I am who I am. And I think that's important for people. If you're going to start a business, if you're going to make a big life-altering change, I think it's really great if you can surround yourself with people who can help you and who you can talk to and share those things with. So fascinating in any dictionary, if you look it up, means extremely interesting. So when I thought about everybody's lives, everybody's choices, decisions, I really loved that word, and I chose to name the business Fascinating Lives, because all our lives are extremely interesting, and they can be extremely interesting for the good and the bad, because as we all know, we've got a bit of both. Why did I start my business is an interesting question, because I kind of started it not by accident, by coincidence, because I went through some difficult times. We all have stories. I shared my stories. I learned from other people's stories. A lot of it was through social media, but a lot of it is also, picking up the telephone and talking to people. And for me, it was through social media. I started sharing what was helping me. And before I knew it, I had somebody reach out to me and ask some pretty serious questions and looking for some advice, because they saw some similarities of what I had been through and how I was helping myself. It was interesting because I started to realize I was creating a bit of an audience, and people were saying, you didn't post anything for a week. Why is that? I'm looking forward to your daily tips and your daily habits. Then one day I decided to start the business, name it that, and get people more engaged in what I was trying to do with my life, which is live it to the best that I can, be the best that I can, and help others. So Fascinating Lives was born, and I started giving more tips and sort of forming what my business was about. The groups that I help now are all over the map. I mean, teens. At the time, it was a lot of mothers, because I was a stay-at-home mom. My kids were younger. But it has evolved to parents, moms and dads, and corporate executives, because you know what? If we have to take care of ourselves first to be able to bring up great children, have good relationships, work, cook, whatever we have to focus on, we have to take care of ourselves first. And that's what I decided to do in some of my darkest moments. And the fact that I can be my own tool now, and that my tips are always with me, and I can share that with others simply by doing presentations. I do a lot of talks. Mainly it's telephone calls now, or Zoom calls, because I'm not meeting people one-on-one. And I'm just trying to help them based on my experience to make decisions and choices that are best for them.
When I looked into your business, I saw the word mindfulness come up a lot. And I think we hear that word very frequently, especially during this time where people really need to focus a lot more on taking care of themselves, to your point. If you had to define mindfulness, what would you say that encompasses? What's mindfulness?
What something means to someone. So for me, mindfulness might be something different than what the books say, what the courses say, or what a client is saying. I was lucky enough, after one of my darkest moments, I woke up one day and I decided that I had to change my life. And I was lucky enough to take a mindful course. And that mindful course gave me lots of tips and tools to learn how to get out of life what I wanted. So mindful to me means putting in very purposeful actions, thoughts, and words into my life, creating principles and tips and habits that make me aware of what's going on moment to moment in my life. I've created, a list of principles that I try to live by, that I share with my clients, and I create tips and sort of daily reminders of how I keep that up every day. So the principles, the tips help me be mindful, which for me means living moment to moment every day, whether it's breathing, exercise, nutrition. I've got a lot of little things and big things that help me.
That's incredible. What are some of these life principles that you are alluding to here that you could maybe share with some of us?
Well, my life principles and the values that I really try to live by came from me learning from some of my stories. I've choked, I've had health issues, my mother dying, being an only child, and having lost my dad already really kicked me into shock and terror and fear. So that's when I decided to take this mindful course and analyze everything in my life. And from that, I decided to make my own principles. And one of the first ones is to learn from the past. We have to learn, no matter how awful it is, if you can learn something from it, if you can ask yourself how you benefit from it and put that into your present day life, then your horrible, scary, past events are worth it. I've also learned to be responsible for me. I used to blame other people. I used to blame other events. And then one day I woke up and I really did become my own advocate. I make the decisions. I choose. It's like I woke up one day when I found out my mother was going to die in 5 weeks. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to do something now because I have 3 kids at home. I think it's very important to find out what your why is. My why was my 3 kids. And I decided I had to do something about that. Another principle that I really have come to believe is that time does heal. I think that, the first year of anything, we always talk about first year anniversaries, whether it's from being fired from a job, whether it's from a surgery or a divorce or a death. That first year is challenging, but it is up to us to decide what to do with that time. And that's when I decided to attack how I react to things. I'd rather have a response than a reaction. And I've learned that through time. Time changes the effect of what has happened to you. So I often, look back at time and see where it's brought me to today. And even I still heal. I'm still healing. In the future, I will heal. One principle I've always had in my life is I use exercise and nutrition. I don't say much about this because I think we all know that if you do the research, we understand the effects of our mood conditions, whether it's depression, anxiety, our heart health, cancer health, like there's so many examples. And I ask people around me about their exercise and their nutrition. I ask people that are a little bit older than me what works for them. And I learn from that. I ask people who are vegetarians, people who do grass-fed beef. Like I ask and I learn, and then I try to figure out what's best for me so that I can use exercise and nutrition to be healthy, to be happier, and be more aware. 2 more points in terms of my principles that I sort of rounded out with is I look at me versus the world around me. And I share this with people because so often we over-engage in drama. And I just learned not to engage. I don't engage. If someone says something nasty or I'm looking at something terrible, I turn it off. I don't engage in anything that does not help me. I don't compare. I don't compare myself with others. I really try to just focus on me and where I want to go. One of my favorite sayings, I'm trying to remember, I think it was actually my friend John from the gym who said to me that day that I met him right after my father died. He says, what others think of me does not matter, and it's none of my business. People are always going to say something about us, but I've learned to turn that switch off. I've learned to treat me versus the world very differently. And I'm not going to get caught up. I'm not going to let other things distract me, because I want to focus on what I want to accomplish with me and with my world. And the last thing, which really helps me be mindful every single day, every hour, is to live with love, gratitude, and kindness. And like I said before, have a why. We all have different whys. I've got a few whys. Once you have a why, it helps you focus on loving, being grateful. A lot of people write gratitude journals down because sometimes we get caught up in the negative and we forget what we actually do have. Every night I go to bed, and I've taught my children this, 3 things to say in their head when all the lights are out, to be grateful for that happened that day. They can be tiny, they can be big, it can be, I'm happy I had macaroni and cheese today. That shuts everything down, and we can put our head on the pillow much more peaceful. It's a great way to shut the day down. I'm a big believer in the law of attraction. One of the first books I read when I decided to sort of learn and research and help myself and then be grateful and happy enough to share it with others is a book called The Law of Attraction. And it taught me that what I put out there really does affect the energy that surrounds me. And I have so many stories about that, where I've just woken up one day and I've said, it's going to be a great day. I'm going to be okay. And that day I have met people who are in my life today that really helped me transform them. Literally just met them. These are new people because I woke up with a specific attitude that day to create the energy that I was going to do. And then of course I have lots of little tricks and, reminders that help those principles and values stick, because I don't remember them all the time. So I don't know if you want to hear about those.
Of course, we want to hear about those. I think those might be the fundamental keys to your business and how you coach others. And I think that's part of what we'd really love to hear more about from you is how do you ingrain these behaviors into your day-to-day life? The principles that you just shared with us are so impactful. I mean, the law of attraction being a very, very big one. What you put out into the universe is what you're going to get back. So to put out kindness and thoughtfulness and warmth and a positive attitude is very, very key to the type of life that you're going to live or the type of day you're going to have. When you're working with your clients, how do you help them to embrace tips and tricks, even in their darkest moments or on a really bad day when they're feeling super overwhelmed? You mentioned catering to not just parents and individuals, but also people in enterprise and helping them to live a more positive and more mindful day-to-day life. You mentioned these tips. How do you coach others to ensure that these kinds of things stay top of mind, even when things don't always feel so good?
So I share with executives, my clients, what works for me. And quite often they're starting this sort of entire concept on a blank slate. So often what works for me helps them. I use a lot of anchors. I have a particular special fascination with hearts. So if I find a rock that's in the shape of a heart, I take it and I put it somewhere in my house where I can see it a lot. Believe it or not, I use gum as an anchor. I don't chew gum very often, but if I'm having a bad day and I think, I'm going to feel anxious or sad or worried, I put a piece of gum in my mouth to remind me to slow things down. I chew it slowly. It completely changes the flavor of my mouth, what's happening in there. And it just reminds me. It's much like the Krazen exercise. Have you ever heard of the Krazen exercise?
I have not. No, what is that?
So it's a brilliant exercise that I believe is shared in the mindful world. I learned it in my mindful course. I don't like craisins, those dried cranberries in the packages. Never liked.
Oh, that's what you're talking about? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
A craisin.
I would have never thght you were talking about food.
Yeah,
okay,
food.
Please tell me more. Now I'm more fascinated. Food,
so
go, please.
Most people don't like craisins, craisins. They'll throw it on a salad because they think it's good or whatever. But the experiment that you do with the craisin is you put it in your mouth. First of all, you touch it and you realize it's waxy, it's hard, it feels unpleasant. It's yuck. Then you put it in your mouth, if you can get beyond the ugliness, and you just put it on your tongue and let it sit. You close your mouth. You still feel it's hard, it's waxy. You may even smell something, and it's really because it's come from a dried bag. It's not pleasant. Then you take one bite, just bite and hold that bite down. So now you've broken into the craisin and a little bit of sweetness comes out. The smell might change. It's been in your mouth for a while, so that waxy texture might, be softening up. And then you take a few more bites and you get these tingles in your mouth and you actually are thinking about what you're chewing. And it is no longer a hard, tasteless, yucky smelling thing in your mouth. And it's actually become, and I was floored because then I actually realized, wow, this actually tastes nice because I was taking the time to taste it. You chew it and it's actually an okay taste. It's not as bad as I thought. So I carry around, whether it's my little rock to remind me or my bag of gum, I have some craisins in my purse. And if I really feel like I haven't been mindful for a few days or I haven't practiced any of my techniques, some of which I will share with you, I put a craisin in my mouth and it reminds me to stop and to slow things down. So that's one anchor. Actually, that's three: rocks, craisin, and gum. The other reminder that I use every day, because I don't always remember what I want to do and what works, is I set alarms on my phones. So I like to wake up and my alarm reminds me that when I wake up, I like to meditate. Sometimes I even set a second alarm and I will do a mini meditation at 2 o'clock. So use your alarms. I set ringtones on my phone so that if somebody, we have good, bad, and ugly people calling us, the ugly people will have, the unpleasant people will have a specific ringtone. So I know if it's the school calling, and I am prepared. And that allows me to respond rather than react, get worried. Same with the good people. If you have a partner, a boyfriend, a fiance, they have a great tone and it prepares you, makes you really, really aware. I have sticky notes everywhere, sticky notes that say, I am doing the best that I can. Today's going to be a great day. When I was going through some of my darkest moments, I had a sticky up on my bathroom mirror and it said, it will be okay. I am going to be okay. I had no idea how. But when you look at those sticky notes over and over and over again, eventually your brain waves change and you actually believe it. And once you start to believe and your thoughts change, it's amazing what happens. You change your words, you change your thoughts, and you really do change your world. I have created screensavers. So if certain people ring on my phone, a picture comes up. I look on my computer, on my television, there's happy screenshots, screensavers of flowers, of people that are in your life with positive influences are very important to see all the time. I've created a happy place in my house. It's of books that I can just open a page and read a positive quote. I have a little Buddha there. I have a candle. You can put whatever makes you feel happy in that little corner. I have mirrors everywhere. I catch myself looking at the mirror and I say, you're going to have a great day. I talk to myself. Self-talk is very important, and I'll get to that later. I listen to music all the time. There's research out there that you can actually restructure your brain waves and how you feel by listening to classical music. I like classical music. It might be different from other people. I always have music playing. I put things on my nightside table. As you can see, I have a lot of reminders. I have a Tibetan ringing bowl. It's a metal bowl, and you have a stick and you roll it, and you get this beautiful ringing. And the belief is it creates a lovely, vibrant energy around you. So on my nightside table, I have lots of little things that remind me. The other thing that I love to do is to eliminate and replace. And what I mean by that is eliminate the things that are in your life. It could be words, it could be people, and replace them with more positive ones. Get rid of the negative and replace them with the positive. So one of the first things I tell some of my clients is they often say, I should be doing this, but, and I'm going to try. Well, those are 3 words you should just eliminate. and replace them. So instead of saying I should, I like to hear I will. And I say this all the time. I catch myself saying, I should have cooked a better meal. Well, I don't say that anymore. I say, tomorrow I will cook a better meal. I've eliminated but, because but is often at the end of a sentence making excuses. So I will say and instead. So instead of saying, but I'm going to do that tomorrow, I say, and I'm going to do that tomorrow. And it just turns it into a little bit more of a positive statement and more reinforcing that it's going to happen. And try, I don't even replace try. I just do. I do it. I don't want to say I try. I really just try and do things. Another tip is to constantly create new traditions. Quite often we feel like we lose a lot of things when we leave a job or we're looking forward to doing something different. It's part of new traditions. I think new memories, new experiences, when we've experienced a lot of loss, is very important. For me, after my mom died, being an only child who was adopted, I didn't have any family. I had 3 kids. So what did I do? I created new traditions, new Christmas morning rituals. There were no grandmas anymore. New trips, new travel. I started to volunteer. I introduced my kids to volunteering, new traditions. I even took some new courses. I took new lessons. All these things help you remind yourself that you can change things when they have been bad or they are bad. And then, of course, I have found some new disciplines such as meditation, breathing, talking to people, sharing stories. You know, it's really important to share stories because we can benefit from the points illustrated in all our stories. And self-talk. I talk to myself all the time. I tell myself what I am and what I am doing. And it really helps me remind myself about the values and the principles that I want to live by to try and live the best life that I can. See, I just said try. Got to get rid of that word. You just do it.
Absolutely. What
This is why I have
tips.
this is why I have constant reminders all the time, you know.
I love it. I love the idea of the happy place. I think I'm going to have to set one up in my own house because just having a space that you can go to and remember how good it feels to be you and to be living the life that you are so blessed to have. All of these little tips and techniques that you just shared that you live on a day-to-day basis, I think are so easy to translate into your own life and hopefully will make a really big difference in helping each and every one of us be more mindful. Are there any other little tips or strategies that you'd like to share with our audience in the last few minutes of our interview?
You know, I think it's really important to understand why people make decisions, why they do what they do. For me, starting my own business was very important to help my family balance the dynamic at home. Of course, I found it very empowering that I could just take my computer, my telephone, I could walk to a park, I could do it at home, but it was very empowering to know that I could do that and help others. I write a lot of blogs on my website, and I'm working on a blog today that actually sort of covers what we discussed today. And I think it's really important that people realize no matter what they want to do in life, that they can become their own tool. And then that tool is with you all the time. It takes practice. And like I said, I think you have to really sign up for it for life. You have to be willing to work on yourself and surround yourself with people in your life that really benefit for you.
Such incredible tips. Thank you, Deirdre, so much for taking some time to speak with us today. For more information on Deirdre Cameron, please check out her website, fascinatinglives.com. I'm sure we'll be looking forward to that blog post you just spoke about. I know I'm going to go check that out as soon as you tell me that it's posted. So on behalf of all of us at FemTV, thank you so much for taking some time to share these incredible tips and techniques with us on how to live a more mindful and meaningful life.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and I love hearing people's stories too. So let's just keep talking and keep sharing and be the best that we can.
We absolutely will keep the dialogue going. For all our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, take good care.